Hi, welcome to another edition of the Alan Rosenberg Show. A little concert review and a little bit more, so stay with this video if you can. Thursday night, went to a free concert here at the local park. Orleans and the Atlanta Rhythm Section. Free concert. Really funny timing that they were both playing together that night because back in 1979, in the same week, or a week apart, I saw both of those bands back in 1979, the original bands. So, as opening bands, no less. So, if you look on this page right there, there is July 8th, 1979, the Marshall Tucker Band with special guest Orleans as the opening band at the Nassau Coliseum. And then right under it, how cool is that? July 26th, 1979, at Madison Square Garden, the Allman Brothers Band with special guests opening up the Atlanta Rhythm Section back in 79. So that was a pretty good week, huh? Or a pretty good month, I guess. Marshall Tucker with Orleans, Allman Brothers with the Atlanta Rhythm Section. So here they are, however many years later, this is 2025, I'm seeing the current version of Orleans and the Atlanta Rhythm Section for free at Eisenhower Park. Me and my wife. So, pretty cool. Let's stick that right there, maybe, or not. Okay. Little background on Orleans. So, funny thing, David Kunsley will notice, because he's from New Orleans. Orleans has actually nothing to do with New Orleans. Why they call themselves Orleans, I don't know. In fact, they were actually formed in Woodstock. And this is the original band, which is Larry Hoppin, I guess his brother Lance Hoppin on bass, who currently is the only original member. Wells Kelly was on drums. John Hall, I guess the most famous of the members, he was also in the band. That was the original foursome Orleans. This is my only album by them, a live record. It's actually really good. You probably know Orleans because they had a couple of hits like Dance With Me, Still the One, everybody knows that one. Dance With Me, everybody knows. Love Takes Time, another great track. And John Hall left the band. They were formed around 72 in Woodstock. John Hall left the band initially in 77 to go solo. He did a solo career, did an album called Power. And if you never heard the song Power, that's my pick for today. John Hall was instrumental in No Nukes. The No Nukes concerts at Madison Square Garden, which was filmed and released this live album. And if you never heard the song Power, right there, performed there by the Doobie Brothers of John Hall and James Taylor. Power is an incredible song. Forget about politics. Forget about that. It's about No Nukes. It's just an amazing song. You need to hear Power if you never did. You'll thank me, as I like to say. Anyway, he left in 77 to go solo. Power is an amazing song. After that, Orleans kind of fluctuated. 1980s, independent labels. Then they went labelless, and they were pretty much done. Then they would reform. John Hall, interesting enough, became a politician, was actually in the United States House of Representatives from 2007 to, I think, around 2011 or so. And then he would occasionally reform with Orleans, and they really would just play live shows and festivals, things like that. But they got kind of a rebirth around 2013. He was done with his politics. And at that point, and I hate the term, yacht rock, I hate that term. But they would have these yacht rock cruises, and Orleans was a really good musical band. And they would become the backup band for a lot of the other performers on the cruise. And they would play their hits, and it became pretty successful. And then John Hall actually retired around 2019. Orleans is still going on. They only have the one original member, which is the bass player. That is Lance, right? Lance Hoppin is the only original member left. And he was there, and very friendly guy, and they performed their hits. They played about an hour, and they were great. My wife loved them. They did, Dance With Me, Still the One, Love Takes Time, Slipping Away is a great track. They did Dancing in the Moonlight, which was done by King Harvest, but they were part of that writing at the time. They were really good. They even did a 70s medley. He was talking about how wonderful it was in the early 70s and hanging out and performing with Jackson Browne and Linda Ronstadt and Joni Mitchell and the Eagles. And they did a 70s medley that went over really big. They did Somebody's Baby from Jackson Browne, Big Yellow Taxi from Joni, When Will I Be Loved, Linda Ronstadt's cover, and Take It Easy from the Eagles. That was a big hit at the concert. They were really, really good. And yeah, even though it's only one original member who's the bass player and he does some vocals, the guys that he got in there now are younger and they're great musicians and they sing great and they sounded absolutely great. So it was a really enjoyable opening act, so to speak. They were terrific. After that, we saw Atlanta Rhythm Section came out. And here's an interesting story. So I'm a fan of the Atlanta Rhythm Section. Maybe you know their history, from Doraville, down south. Buddy Boo, I think that's how he pronounced it, was a famous writer. And a producer and record label kind of a guy. And he would co-write songs with Classics 4 and others. And he got friendly with the guys, and they found these great musicians and put them together to be the house band at the recording studio down in Doraville. That was the Atlanta Rhythm Section. They were known as these incredible, incredible players. And then they would write songs together, and they formed a band and actually started recording albums. And their first album featured a singer named Rodney Justo. So here's the interesting point. When I saw the Atlanta Rhythm Section now at this particular show, they only have one original member in the band. And according to Rodney, he said they've had over 15 members in the band, more than that. But here's the interesting thing. He was the singer at the concert, Rodney Justo. He was only the singer on their very first album, which was not a hit. After that, he left the band. I have this box set called the Polydor Years, and it's got all their big albums. But it starts with their second album, Third Annual Pipe Dream. Rodney Justo, the singer, who is the original member, the original singer of the band, is not on any of their big albums. That was the legendary Atlanta Rhythm Section, which had like Barry Bailey on guitar, Paul Goddard on bass, Robert Nix was on drums, J.R. Cobb on guitar, Dean Daughtry, I think, was on cables. And of course, the singer was Ronnie Hammond. He was the singer of Atlanta Rhythm Section for all of those albums. It was like 7 or 8 famous albums in a row. So it's kind of an interesting story having Rodney Justo back in the band. He joined back, I guess, from like 2011 or so. And all the other guys in the band are, much younger. They joined the band in the mid to late 2000s. And they're younger and they're, gunslingers. They're guitar players. They sound great. Really strong band. But it's kind of an interesting thing. I kind of equated, imagine REO Speedwagon. So it's a really good analogy. REO Speedwagon's first album had a singer named Terry Luttrell. And then after the first album, he was gone. It wasn't a hit. So imagine REO Speedwagon out there touring now with just Terry Luttrell as the lone original member. And all the other people are new players, but yet playing all the classic REO Speedwagon songs from Kevin Cronin, etc. It's kind of an odd concept, and that's what Atlanta Rhythm Section is right now. So it's kind of an odd kind of a thing in a sense. But they're a very muscular band. I like Atlanta Rhythm Section. Great players. And when I compare it to their heyday, the current band is, in my memory, this is a much harder rockin', driving band. These are young players who really are powerful. And Rodney, considering his age, does a fine job on the vocals. Certainly different than Ronnie Hammond's voice. So if you know these songs well, like I do, it's a different texture. And some of them he sings well, some of them, different. But he does an admirable job of keeping the Atlanta Rhythm Section name alive. And both bands did something that I think is really, really cool. When the show was over, there was a merch table. And all the members went to the merch table, and you can talk to them, take pictures with them, and buy their CDs. And in fact, I bought the new Atlanta Rhythm Section album, which is a compilation called Time Machine. And this is a double CD. And they autographed it for me. Yeah, those are autographs in front of it. And, this talks about all the different members of the band and their whole history. And this is a really nice collection because the second CD is live tracks from all the different years, and they're a really good live band. Musically, they sound really good. And then the first disc is deep tracks and relatively unknown tracks and things like that. So it's not a double greatest hits. It's a really cool collection for the fans. So that was fun. I bought this from them to support them. I got a Orleans pick, actually. Here's a pick that I bought there. Dance with me. So, I try to support the bands going out there. I'm definitely a fan of Atlanta Rhythm Section. If you don't know them, here's a best of that's got, a lot of their big hits. So Into You, you definitely know. Imaginary Lover, Champagne Jam, Not Gonna Let It Bother Me Tonight, Do It or Die, Spooky, which was their remake of the Classics 4-track, but featured bands from it, members of the Atlanta Rhythm Section who were in that band. And this is a nice box set of the Polydor years, if you're not familiar with them and you really do want to get into them. But it took them a while to get going. Third Annual Pipe Dream, this album. And then you got Dog Days. I actually always like their artwork. Their artwork is real good. And then Red Tape. They actually were selling t-shirts of these album covers, and I probably should have bought a t-shirt because I'll never find them again. But here's where they kind of broke big. Champagne Jam, which is really good. And then Underdog, like that one. Rock and Roll Alternative, where is it? There it is. That's a big one. A really good Southern rock band. As you probably know if you know my channel, here's another one, Boys from Doraville. This is a latter day one. And then their live one, which is just okay. Are You Ready? They're a good live band, but this live album is just okay, in my opinion. And then a booklet that David Kunze, I need more than glasses to be able to read this thing. All right, so Atlanta Rhythm Section and Orleans live in concert. I actually I went up to the stage as soon as the show was over, and I saw Rodney Justo, the singer, and he went right over to me, and I shook his hand. Obviously, he doesn't know who I am. He was just being friendly, and I was being friendly, and I was talking to him a little bit, telling him how great the show was. And I said, hey, can you do me a favor? Can I have one of your set lists? And he actually left me, went onto the stage, pulled off the set list, and walked back and gave it to me. Now, how cool is that? How many rock stars will do that, even if you're not a big rock star anymore? And he gave me the set list, and then when I went back to the merch table and I bought the CD and they signed that, they signed the set list. So there's the set list, Champagne. I like how they write that. That's Champagne Jam, Spooky, Doraville, Large Time, Not Living Bother Me Tonight, Do It or Die, Angel, Into You, that's So Into You, Imaginary Lover. Yeah, it was a fine set and a fine performance. So I guess the big question to end it is, how do you feel about this? It's like it's such a fine line in today's world between tribute bands. Like there's a huge industry, and some of these tribute bands are bigger than the real bands, and some of the tribute, they're amazing, a lot of the tribute bands, where it's Beatles tribute bands and Led Zeppelin tribute bands, and Pink Floyd's got 1 million of them. And these bands are huge. They actually, in certain markets, play arenas. It's incredible, right? I mean, the Musical Box does the classic Genesis stuff, and I've seen them, and they're incredible, and they play big places. And I love seeing them because it's the only way to see that original Genesis music, and I preferred to see the Musical Box. I wouldn't go see the latter-day Genesis because I don't care about seeing that. I want to see the original stuff, and Genesis doesn't do that. But I will see Steve Hackett because he does the original stuff. But even like, current bands, who is it, Foreigner? Does Foreigner have any original members? Lynyrd Skynyrd. The original Lynyrd Skynyrd was done in 1977. Here we are in 2025. They're still going strong. I don't know if they have any original members left, but I think they're bigger than they've ever been. They have restaurant chains. Foreigner, did I mention them? Do they have any original members left? And then you have bands like Orleans and Atlanta Rhythm Section that maybe have one original member, and even that's a bit of a stretch because maybe it was the bass player or a singer who was only on their first album. But yet, if you like the music, it's really the only way you're going to see it. So, and they're good, they're really good. So it's kind of this odd dichotomy that I fight with, it's like, is it a real band? Is it a tribute band? Listen, I love Wishbone Ash, and I see them when I can, and it's really only Andy Powell, but I actually said that to Andy Powell once, and he was like, "What are you talking about, man? These guys have been in the band 4 times as long as the original members." Touche. He's got a point there, right? So, when does the new members become the legendary members? They've been with the band much longer than the original ones. It's kind of interesting. I mean, not that he's a member of the Rolling Stone, but Darryl Jones been in the band longer than Bill Wyman. Something to be said for that. Anyway, food for thought. And if you feel like writing about it, let me know what your thoughts are, because we want to see the music. And yeah, I got these, saw them for free, so it's even better, right? But is it really the bands? But in today's world, it's all about branding. Is the Who? Even though it's Pete Townsend and Roger Daltrey, is it really the Who? Well, that's the debate. Let me know what you think. As always, thanks for watching. And hit subscribe if you're new to my channel. Check out the playlist. And love the conversation. I will be taking some time off. Going to be going on vacation later this week. So you won't see a video for like a week or so. Hope you understand that. And then I'll be back and we'll continue. As always, thanks so much and have a great night.